Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
Continuing our samurai principles, we just did last week's on politeness and propriety, and that was a great episode. And so coming off of that, our next samurai principle, we're talking about the principle of honesty.
Yes.
Specifically, the samurai principle of Makoto, which is, a concept that, it emphasizes sincerity, honesty, kind of truthfulness, kind of all of those things combined into one.
Right. And I think anybody, if you've lived long enough, you realize that there's a lot of people that aren't honest, whether it's in business or just in personal life. How often do we have to go through all of the Facebook and Google? How many stars do they have? What are their comments? Which I think we should do anyways,
right?
Because you can't rely on their marketing. Maybe they're super good at marketing and super good at branding, and you can't believe what they're telling you. Of course, they're going to say they're the best and the greatest, and maybe they are. But when you hear from other people, you hear from their customers, and they have a 4.9 star review with not just 3 reviews, but hundreds of reviews. Now you're like, okay, then they can't all be lying, and it can't all be just their workers that did it. It's got to be more than that. That's unfortunate that we have to do that, but that's just the way of the world now. But what can we focus on? We can focus on ourselves. We can focus on us being honest, and that's really what we're going to talk about here.
I really like it. I like that direction you went in, because it's, the fact that we're fact checking honesty now.
Yes.
Because not in a mistrusting way. Like, we're doing it because there is so much out there.
Yeah.
Between spam emails and phishing and texting, and a great story. Like, I got a text message yesterday that said, "Hey, you received an e-card from your daughter. Click here to view, the card." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really sweet." But I screenshotted it and I texted it to her first to make sure she actually sent it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, we are in this world where we're fact checking honesty. And this is part of why, like, these principles are so important, because what we're talking about is reputation.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about becoming a person that people know as being someone who's honest. And I think that's one of those invaluable things you can have in your life, where when people come to you, they say, "I know Theron is an honest person," and I can tell other people that, and I can feel good about it. So important.
It is, and it will catch up to you, especially in personal, but also in business.
Mm-hmm.
If you do people wrong and you're not honest with your business dealings, it's gonna come up.
Yeah.
You have to have. And we talked about samurai integrity first. That was our first principle we talked about. All of these tie in and they overlap, and there's overlapping and everything. Like you mentioned, reputation. Well, if you listen to our last podcast from last week, that was the second principle in there that we talked about. To worthy reputation, and that's all part of the honesty. So it's all tied in.
And it's so important, because nothing spreads faster. Right. You can be as honest as you want and no one will know, but nothing spreads faster than dishonesty.
Right.
I always say, hey, if you're, at a restaurant and you see no cockroaches, you don't go tell people you saw no cockroaches.
Right.
Right. Because that would be a weird thing to say.
It would be a weird thing.
But if you see one cockroach, you tell people you saw 30.
Right.
So honesty works very similar. Like, people don't typically go around just talking about how honest people are. It's it would just be like odd conversation.
Right.
But dishonesty spreads. So let's get into this in the action steps, because I think this is really important.
So the first one, and this might be obvious to a lot of people, be honest to yourself. Be honest with yourself and to yourself. Now, we all make excuses and justifications. That happens. That's a constant. However, if your mind makes that and then you buy into it and then you spread it to others, that's where the problem lies. Yeah. You can have a negative thought in your head. That happens. You can be the most positive person in the world, and a negative thought is going to come in your head. But what do you do with that negative thought? Do you let it fester and get bigger, and then you make an excuse and justification why you failed? Or are you honest with yourself? Say, you know what? I didn't prepare myself. Or, you know what? I wasn't ready mentally to do this goal. That's, I believe, is part of that honesty that we need to have.
Yeah, I think making excuses, right, is, and we do it, and we think we're being honest with ourselves,
Right.
but we're not. I
No.
mean, you're listening to this, you do have time to exercise, right?
Yes.
You do have the ability to start a business if you want to. You do
Hmm.
have the business to excel in your career,
Right.
and you can do all of that while still
Right.
being a great spouse and parent. Like
Yeah.
I'm telling you that because if the excuse in your head is, well, I don't have time to get fit because I have little kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
I have met lots of people with little kids who are working out every day or every other day.
Right.
So it's excuses in your head and being honest with yourself,
Hmm.
but also not being too hard on yourself. Because I also think part of being honest with ourselves is sometimes saying, honestly, like I'm beating myself up, but if I'm being honest, I made
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah.
So as much as this is simple,
Yeah.
I think it's really complicated,
Hmm.
because there's that balance of I shouldn't make excuses and I should do more, but also that balance of, what, if I made progress today, like I shouldn't let my brain lie to me and tell me I'm a failure if I'm actually moving forward.
Right. Right. And we've talked about this since you brought up exercise. If your goal is to exercise for 30 minutes, but you only do 10, okay, don't beat yourself up over that.
Right.
Like you said, you made progress. Now, if that happens every single day that you try to work out, then okay, maybe you need to work on scheduling more or getting up early or something
Yeah.
like that. But if that happens even once a week or even twice a week, some workouts better than no workout, right? 10 minutes
Mhm.
is better than 0 minutes. And so that concept of, and I like how you put that balance, we need to have a balance that, yes, you need to be hard on yourself. You need to make sure that you're not justifying and making excuses, but at the same time, you need to make sure that if you are making progress, that's okay too.
Yeah. I love that. There's such a balance there. So I mean, starting with being honest with yourself, it just seems so simple, but it's so not.
Yeah.
It's such a complex process. But going into number two, which I think is important, and this is almost the more obvious one, right? Truthful conduct.
Right.
And it's about
Mm-hmm.
being honest in your dealings with other people.
Right.
And this, when we think of ourselves, like I think most people, if you say, "Are you honest with people?" They go, "Of course I'm honest with people."
Yeah.
But tell them I have something going on this weekend and I can't go to their thing because but
Right.
that's not dishonesty, that's something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, and like and we all do it. So this is not a judgment, right? But
Right.
I always tell my kids, like, the less of those things you make up, the more room you have in your head for important things
Yeah.
because you're not wasting mental space remembering what you told people.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I, I think if you're just honest and straightforward, whether business or in life, with keeping in mind being kind. That was part of
Yeah.
our other thing. But being honest, then, like you said, you don't have to remember. Okay, what lie did I tell this person? What lie did I tell that person? And that is exhausting. That can be super exhausting. So just being honest, and going back to our recent podcast is part of the reputation too. What's your reputation? Is your reputation as a business person to be that you're honest or that you're dishonest?
Hmm.
And that can really make your business thrive or kill it.
And I would challenge people to learn how to say no to
Yeah.
things,
Yes.
but also to be tactful while doing it.
Sure.
Like I think that tactful honesty, if somebody says, "Hey Mark, I'm having a get together this weekend and I don't want to go," you know, there's level one of me just saying, "No, I don't really want to hang out with those people. I'm never gonna do that,"
Yeah.
but it's okay to say like no, because like I haven't seen my family all week. I've been working real hard and I really want to prioritize time with them. Nobody's
Right.
ever going to argue against that.
Right.
And it doesn't come off weird. So I think that you can be honest, tactful, and still make time for yourself,
Hmm.
all at the same time. One of my least favorite, everyone knows I'm in real estate, and one of those things you hear constantly in real estate is, well, we're not lying, we're negotiating.
Oh.
I hate that. Like
Hmm.
that is one of those things where I hear it and I go, if you can't tell the truth and still get what you want, then you're going down the wrong path,
Right.
right? There's a way to have that honesty in every situation, that transparency, and it's a practice of just trying to get better at it.
Well, it's kind of like, and you're directly in this business, but contractors, you think of a contractor. What do most people think? They don't, most of them right off the bat are skeptical of contractors. Now, that's not fair to the ones that are very honest, because I do know many honest contractors, as I'm sure you do.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are dishonest, whatever percentage that is, I don't think I hope it's not 50-50, but it could be. But those, whatever percentage that are dishonest, are ruining it for the ones that are honest.
Yeah.
And we were just talking last night. I won't get in specifics, but that there's definitely discrepancy with one of the things that you're talking about with
Yeah.
the contractors, and that unfortunately happens all the time.
Yeah, it does. And just like the restaurants, right? I mean, we don't go out and tell everybody about the not cockroaches. We tell them about the cockroaches. So
Right.
sometimes it feels like, and this is another kind of thing in our mindset. It feels like 80% of the world is against us
Yeah.
because that's the 80% we tell people about.
Right.
And part of honesty is just, I think that transparency is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just spreads so quick. But when someone asks you, I need a contractor, right? You're going to give them those honest people, and they're going to know because of your reputation that I can trust this. Like this is going
Right.
to work out in my
Right.
favor. So I think it just carries through so far.
Yeah, you're lending your credibility to the other person.
Yeah.
So.
And when they follow through, man, it makes you look better. It makes them look awesome. It's a great thing. So, really challenging people to like, learn how to, even if you need to, step out of an event or you don't want to do something or, you can still be honest and be tactful and get what you need at the same time. So,
Right.
really developing that skill is important.
Mm-hmm.
But then going into the third step, which like I love this one, it's just being reliable and
Right.
keeping your promises.
Yep.
And again, we love saying yes to things. And specifically, like I'm not a, you need to say no to people more person. Like I think a lot of people just overvalue their time and they could be saying yes to a lot more things and
Mm-hmm.
opening up their life. But, at the same time, make sure that when you say something that you're going to do something, you
Right.
do it,
Right.
and if you don't do it, you own up to it. I think that's another part of this.
Yes, for sure. So the keeping promises is, of course, to other people, but it's also keeping promises to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That you're going to work out, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to start this project, and that it's like anything else that you practice. The more you do it correctly, the stronger you get at it. If you want to be able to do more push-ups, you got to just do more, and you got to do them with quality, and you just keep increasing and you get stronger. Well, the same thing really with what we're talking about, with whether we're talking honesty or keeping promises or whatever, is the more often you do it, not only becomes more natural, it just happens for you, and
Yeah.
that helps your reputation and it helps all those things that we've already talked about.
It's funny, we were joking about this when we were planning the podcast, but there was a 6:15 class, was
Oh,
it last week or the week before that
yeah,
you asked me to cover for you, right?
yeah,
Because you were doing something. And I said, absolutely. And you texted me in the morning and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I showed up at 6:20, thinking it started at 6:45. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
So in your
And
head,
that was
you had a
right.
different.
So totally boned, like stupid, like just dumb move. But I was honest with you, and I told you, like, I rushed. I read the text. I thought it said 6:45. I still got there early, which was thank God I did. But if you make mistakes,
Yeah.
I could have said, oh, like my car stalled or I had a flat. There's a lot of things you can do, but like if you just say what happened, for the most part, people are going to respect you
Oh, yeah.
more. You know what I mean? And that goes for yourself too. Like if I miss a workout, I can go through the myriad of excuses in my head. I
Mhm.
mean, go back to the podcast, don't be lame, right? Don't blame things.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but if I'm just honest with myself and I go, you know what, man, you were up late last night, you didn't feel like working out this morning, you hit the snooze button too many times, don't do it tomorrow.
Right.
At least I'm being honest with myself and I can take that next step.
I'm laughing because we've all had people in our lives, and I certainly have, that just make excuses for everything.
Yeah.
And they're not fooling anybody. They're not fooling themselves, but they're certainly not fooling me.
We
When
know.
right, you ask them, so why didn't you do this? And then all of a sudden, there's this whole list of excuses of why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And all they had to say to me is, "I forgot."
That's
Okay.
it.
And then I would be like, all right, what's your system to remember the next time? That would be my conversation with them.
Yeah.
But when somebody starts giving me excuses, And you know me, I start quizzing them and I
Yeah.
start pinning them into a corner. Sometimes I'll do it physically, but I try nowadays to do it just mentally and verbally. And the truth comes out. And then especially if it's in front of people, now you're really embarrassed, as you should be, because
Mm-hmm.
you're the one that started it. So just a word of advice.
I love the idea of me saying, "Oh, I got a flat tire," and then you would say,
Oh,
"Which tire?"
which tire?
I was like, "Ah."
I probably wouldn't do that to you because
No, I
you
know,
haven't
but
shown me any reason not to believe you.
yeah,
But if it happened, if all of a sudden you're saying I got a flat tire and it happens every week, I'd be like, okay, you've ran out of tires. You only have 4. They're all new. Where are you driving that you're getting all these flat tires?
yeah. All
Yeah.
right, so I love this episode. This is like such an important concept. But let's rewind. Let's go through our action steps because I really think like this is great stuff that you can put into effect
Yeah, for
right
sure.
now when you're done listening. So number one, being honest with yourself. Like finding that balance between pushing yourself harder, and being honest with your excuses, but also being honest with your subconscious and not letting yourself beat yourself up when you're making progress.
Number 2 is truthful conduct. So as you're dealing with people, that you're truthful, you're honest, you're upfront. I think, especially in business, that's key to long-term success.
Absolutely. And then the last one is just keeping those promises and being reliable. Doing the best you can that when you say you're going to do something, doing it. And when
Yep.
you fall short, just being honest about why you fell short with
Right.
yourself and with the other person, because that just
Mm-hmm.
builds that trust level even more. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. We hope you enjoyed this. Please share it with somebody who would get a lot out of it. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.